Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Happy 2025. Today what we're going to look at is my now pretty much what's been my go-to wildlife setup for the past few months now, which is this here. This is my 500mm now with camo, a 1.4 times converter to take to 700mm, and then my 1DX Mark II, bringing back out the old faithful as my kind of go-to wildlife lens at the moment, camera at the moment. There are reasons for that. I'll go through that probably in another video, but what we'll talk about now is we'll go through some of the photos I've taken with this monstrous setup, and then I will tell you a bit more why this is now pretty much my favorite setup. Even if I go to zoos now, this is actually a pretty surprisingly useful lens. If I had the Mark II, it would actually probably be more useful because I'd have an even closer focusing distance. But let's get into those photos now and we'll go from there. So first of all, here we've got a monkey, very furry monkey. It's well suited to the colder climates of the UK. And as you can see, even though it's a great example actually, because it is so fluffy, you can see the individual details of the fur on the monkey, which is showing the details of the lens setup I'm currently using. But also, even though we're shooting a slightly higher aperture than I usually do because of the converter, you've still got a very nice separation between the background and the monkey, so it makes this photo work very nicely indeed. Next one I've put in mainly because of the weather conditions that we're shooting, and if you look in sort of the top of the screen, you can see how much rain this was. This was very dark December, about 3 PM in torrential rain, and you're still able to get a very, very sharp image. And because the lens hood on here is so big, you don't really ever get any rain droplets actually on the front element ever either, which is really, really nice. Even if you're pointing at the weather, it's very hard to get water on that front element as you stick it straight up in the air. So you're still able to get these really, really nice sharp images even in absolutely torrential rain. Now I do love a good portrait photo, so this is Bailey the lion looking straight at me using this lens. Bright sunny day, which is really nice, and you can just see the details in his mane, into the eyes, because we're shooting that higher aperture, the whole face is in focus, which is really nice. You get all that really crisp details, and so the eyes just look absolutely perfect, pin sharp, so absolutely great for portrait photos as well, for animals. Final photo here is of a cheetah walking towards me, giving me a bit of a meow. They don't really roar because they're not big cats, but it's coming towards me, putting a bit of a face. But you can see nice and pin sharp again because we're shooting that higher aperture. Face is fully in focus. Even the front of the body is actually in focus as well. But the background, the separation, the colours, everything, just so nice, and it just gives you a super detailed photo shooting that higher aperture. But you just also get that really nice separation. Say the greens are popping here, nice sort of yellowy brown fur, but the eyes, the golden eyes there, pin sharp and how they should be. So there we are, the imagery taken on this equipment here, the big old faithful sort of setup going on to my left. It is a heavy setup. That is the first thing we need to talk about really, is weight. This is a monstrous setup, and I can just about handhold this, but not for very long at all. It's like a couple of minutes at a time, put it down, that kind of thing. I always use this with a monopod. I have a gimbal attached to that, and then I have these Wembley mounting points on my bigger lenses that connect everything together. But it does mean with this advantage of this lens being so big, it does come with this really nice big handle that allows you to really actually grab onto it, walk around it, carry everything how you'd want to. So there is that advantage, but it is a big old lens. Now, why I've gone with going for a 1.4 converter rather than just buying something like a 600mm is a 600mm is actually a significant amount more money than this lens, and is even heavier. So you're looking at around about another £1,500 for the 600mm version of this lens. Still f4, so you do gain that little bit of reach for the same aperture. But a 1.4 converter, I use the Mark II converters because my lenses are quite old. I don't need to use the the Mark IIIs to get the full functionality. But that costs 150 quid and then makes this into a 700mm lens, which, let's say, I've been using this now, as you've seen in the photos I've shown you. I use this at zoos, I use this out in the wild. I've got a goal this year of finally getting a photo of a kingfisher. This is the setup that I'm taking out every weekend to try and get a photo of a kingfisher. And for the UK, this is absolutely perfect. Some people even might say, well, Canon make an 800mm f11 for really cheap, or a 200 to 800 for a couple of grand. Why don't you get one of those two options? Well, you don't have that low aperture, which is what you'll get from this setup here. And in the UK, in December, January, like, you don't have a lot of strong light even in the middle of the day, let alone at the beginning of the day during sunrise and sunset, when those kingfish and the animals are getting more active. And it's really nice to be able to have that lower aperture, so I can shoot at a higher shutter speed but still maintain a lower ISO. If I was shooting with f11, I'd have to be using either a really slow shutter speed, which is not great for flying birds, and can maintain that low ISO, or using a high shutter speed and then using a ridiculously high ISO. And they're just not what I want to do. I don't want to have to compromise when I get these nice photos and sort of look at the back of them and I'm proud of what I've taken. If you're living in a hotter country, something like Africa, you can get away with those f11 lenses because you've got so much more natural light all the time. Even at the dawn and dusk, you've got a nice strong bright light. I just don't have that luxury, so for me personally in the UK, this is why I went for that. You also have that really nice L glass quality, even with the converter on there. I know some people say you shouldn't use converters, but I see very little sharpness degrade from that converter. I keep it clean, I keep the lens clean, I still can get sharp images from it, as you've seen. The autofocus isn't really affected by it. The ×2 converter, you do get a little bit of lag. The 1.4, because it is such a small connection, you don't get anything. It's about the same size as an EF to RF adapter mount. That's how small that extender is, and that's how little interface you're adding to this setup here. And then obviously the final thing is, why am I using the 1DX and not my R3, is because this time of year with the low light, I trust that camera to get me the photo more than I trust the R3. I can stick it in center focus point, back button focus, and I know what that's pointed at and what that focuses on is going to be in focus. Sometimes in low light this time of year, I'm finding the R3 can get a little bit jittery, and it takes a little bit longer to get that focus. And when you're looking at animals that are going to be there for a split second, I want to know what I'm pointing at, I'm going to get that photo. So that's why I've gone for that. I'm even using it. I will do a video next week where I'm talking about my 300mm lens and taking photos of some new leopard cubs at my local zoo, and why I'm still using that camera with that old 20-year-old lens to take those photos of the leopard cubs that are 40 days old, because I trust this camera to be able to give me that perfect image when I want it, and not have that lag that a mirrorless camera seems to give you. And some people accept it and are happy with that. I'm not happy with it. I won't accept it this time of year. In the summer, works absolutely perfectly. I know I can trust it, but in these lower light conditions, the DSLR is, in my opinion, still a better option to go for. So this is my, let's say, my go-to setup at the moment. It will, as I say, in the summer, I probably will put the R3 on there because I can rely on the focus a bit better with better lighting. But for now, I'm on that 1DX Mark II. What do you think of my setup? Where would you do something different? Where would you improve it? Do you think I should just use the mirrorless R3 and get over it? Or do you agree with my statements on the 1DX? Let me know in the comments down below. Please subscribe, as you always do, if you like the content. And I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Cheers.